Hello out there in the YouTubeverse. It is Max, and I'm not alone. I got a guy. He's under me.
Hi.
It's Jared,
That's
and
me.
we are back. Yeah, if you're seeing this view, you know what's coming because you read the title on the YouTube video, most likely.
Oh, crap, I have to title these?
Yeah. It's
All right.
that is kind of the drudgery. But good news is we have a Pauper primer.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking, hey, I probably may have missed this, you didn't. We kind of waited a little while to do this one. The reason is because we're doing a charity Pauper stream on the 26th of May. March. I'll keep it topical. Is it May? Is it March? Yeah. Whenever you're watching this, on the 26th, the nearest 26th, we're doing a charity event.
The nearest 26th, without not going over.
That's right.
It's not the one in the past. Definitely not February.
No, but we are doing one March 26th, 2022, and we are trying to help out the Child's Play charity, and we're doing an Arena Pauper tournament, because we love Arena Pauper. Ooh. So we wanted to kind of bring this out close to then, so you could check it out with us. If you're interested, of course, you can always follow the link tree that Jared has there, because, we do stuff with the Paupers.
Yep. Hopefully I remember to put not only the link tree in the description, I'll also put the Tiltify that Child's Play is using for this event in the description.
Fantastic. So yeah, we are going to be doing some charity stuff, playing some Pauper. It should be a good time. So we wanted to start to bring everybody what we thought were the cards worth noting for Arena Pauper coming out of Neon Dynasty. And there are some good ones, and it's been weird because we've actually had time to play with these cards.
Yeah, I almost like waiting a couple of weeks extra, because then it's like, instead of us thinking about what might be good, it's actually, hey, here's what's proven to be pretty good in the set.
Yep, we'll do maybe 10 to 20% of the cards were no, this 100% is just either a strict upgrade to an existing card or just goes into a deck because it's perfect.
Yep.
The rest of the cards were this would be pretty cool maybe in this, and I had some of those cards. If you're curious, I can tell you what they were. Disruption Protocol and Mnemonic Sphere were two of them, thinking that maybe you could do an artifact-based control deck. I tried that, and it is just clunkier than playing the standard Dimir-style control deck that we've already put up on the page in the past. It's a cool idea, and I love the idea of a solid blue-blue counterspell, but having to play Chromatic Sphere and also having to play Witching Well is the name of the one. Witching Well. And the new, there's Disruptor, but that doesn't really fit the deck, but it's a cheap artifact. But there is the Disruption Protocol that adds mana. I tried it. It's just super clunky. And when you draw these cards, the Sphere's not big, so you can cash it in immediately. The Well is pricey, and the Scry's not an immediate card draw, so that's kind of a hindrance. It just didn't quite work out. So nice to make little actual points to move forward from, and not just be that'd be kind of cool, because if this were the primer now, I'd be talking about those cards because I think they're cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe in time that absolutely may be a thing, or maybe it has a home in a tempo based deck that's using that instead of Metallic Rebuke or something, but it just didn't quite work out in my testing. So we'll talk about what is good for this one. It's good.
Absolutely.
So let's start with White. White got a whopping one card. Arena Pauper. One whole card. It is a cute little doggo. It is Spirited Companion.
Such a good art.
Yeah, great art. Is a little doggo. That's not the important thing here. It's a 1/1 for 1 that draws a card when it ETBs, right? It is the, what's the elf that does that?
Elvish Visionary.
Elvish Visionary, thank you.
For 1 and a green.
1 and a green. There is a huge difference here. Elvish Visionary does have a home in Arena Pauper. In Elves, also has a home in the Hexproof decks.
Yep.
And for the longest time, I played it in the Hexproof decks. Now you don't need to because you have this creature. It's an enchantment. That means that Ancestral Mask counts it as +2/+2.
It does. It does. That's really good.
It's forever, Jared, I've been championing the blue-green version of auras over the white version. This kicks the white version into being the best version of that deck in Pauper. And I hate to admit it, but
this is one of the most efficient creatures that you could put in a deck for just wanting cheap enchantments and cheap creatures. It's it fits both. It's really good.
It is so efficient at what it does. It's very powerful. It doesn't look it, but being able to draw more cards. The deck always wants cards. It wants enchantments in play. This serves both masters. If you're in a pinch, it is a creature you can put enchantments on itself. Mm-hmm. It's just very flexible. It's very good. There is no reason not to play it in your hexproof deck. So it is definitely a fantastic addition to the meta in an already existing deck.
Yep.
This next one I have not found a home for, but I am certain is worth running a copy, and I'll explain why.
It's so good.
This is a 7-drop, and we don't often bring up 7-drops because the format's pretty quick. This is a 5/7 for 7. It is Mirror Shell Crab. It is an artifact creature crab. It's got Ward 3, so if they target it, they have to pay 3 more in order to make it work. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
The most important thing about this card is the next part of the card. It is the channel ability. If you're not familiar with channel, you have to pay this cost and discard it. This is an ability. This is not a spell you are casting, which is a very important thing to note.
Yeah.
Which means that this counters a spell or an ability unless the controller of that spell or ability pays 3 colorless mana. If you try to counter, you can't counter this. I can't negate Mirror Shell Crab's channel ability.
Yeah, the only thing you could do is use a different Mirror Shell Crab against it, because it
the only thing that works.
That ability.
Crab on crab only.
Only.
That's so crazy good. And this, while it has more implications in Paper Pauper, because it can counter Storm.
Yes, it can.
Its implication here in Arena Pauper is actually pretty prevalent in control mirrors. It's a really good one of, because if your opponent goes to try to win via like popping an IGI or using some kind of a tap ability, you can counter that to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like an amazing card to have access to, but also in control mirrors, it's an uncounterable counterspell.
Yeah.
So it has a lot of flexibility in control mirrors. Now, unfortunately, we don't play with sideboards in Arena Pauper as of yet, but if the day comes, this is definitely going to be like at least a 2 of in your sideboard, and I definitely advocate running probably at least a copy in the main board of your deck because of the flexibility of the crab. It's very good.
Yeah, because one thing you have to note is that it just says ability. So a lot of times it'll say activated ability, but this is also triggered, and
yes.
That's like that triggers the Dogged Pursuit, which is the IGI that doesn't have the sack ability. So you could be at 1 and still survive if that's all they have. And that could be enough.
Absolutely. So moving on from there is another artifact / enchantment creature. This one's an enchantment creature. And boy, oh boy, it's a good one. Moon Circuit Hacker. It is a 2/1 for 1 and a blue enchantment creature, human ninja. It's got ninjutsu. If you're not familiar with ninjutsu, lucky you.
Yeah.
Because welcome to a world of headaches.
It's it can be a problem.
Yeah. So whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card unless it entered the battlefield this turn. Very good stuff. It has ninjutsu, which means after you attack, you can have your opponent declare your blockers. Would you like to block any of my creatures? Any creature that is unblocked is eligible for the cost, in this case, of a blue, to be picked up and put back into your hand, and then in its place, poof, a ninja appears. This ninja.
Yep.
And that is the power. So the power of ninjutsu is not only that this card is pay 1 blue, draw a card, so it replaces itself immediately if it hits. That's very powerful. One of the other big benefits is it can pick up creatures with enter the battlefield effects, like we saw in Spirited Companion.
Yeah, seems pretty good.
Seems pretty good, right? Like, I 1 and a white, draw a card. Next turn, attack. Oh, you want to block? No? Okay, cool. Poof. Here's a ninja for a single blue. Hit you, draw a card, recast my Spirited Companion, draw a card. Seems like a pretty good turn 3 to me.
Yeah, and the fact that it's an extra damage on top of it, you know, if you're just bouncing your 1/1s for 2/1s, that's a pretty good deal.
Yes, and we've already had Ninja of the Deep Hours in the format, but this being able to be like Ninja of the Deep Hours 5 through 8, if you want to go that deep, depending, is fantastic. I mean, we have a lot of good ninja options. Okiba Gang Shinobis was already eligible in the format.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of really cool ninja stuff you can do now without just having to be like a ninja theme deck. You can actually just play ninjas that are specifically targeted to kind of be a tempo deck, but also like a tempo control deck that looks really fun. I haven't gotten to fiddle with ninjas too much yet, But man, really cool stuff. And we're going to look at more stuff, obviously, that complements ninjas, as this is the set for it. And as a matter of fact, the very next card is a great ninja enabler. This is the Network Disruptor. And boy, does it ever disrupt. It's a 1/1 flyer for 1. When it enters the battlefield, tap target permanent. So tap the guy that can block. Now swing, get your ninjas, all that good stuff. And then you pick this back up and you can recast it and tap things again.
Yeah.
It's worth noting they get to untap. This isn't going to lock them down like a Frost Lynx or a Frost Trickster, more accurately for the format. But this does tap things out of the way so you can get an attack. So an aggressive deck wants this. A ninja deck wants this. Something that's playing to the board, a tempo-oriented deck wants this card.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very good, very flexible. It's cheap. It doesn't bring hard beats. It's a better enabler than it is a beater, but still does I mean, what the heck else do you want out of your Suntail Hawk here? For goodness sake,
1/1 flyers that do other stuff should always be looked at.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I agree. So from U to B, we move to black. Clawing Torment, Enchantment, Aura for a single black mana. Speaking of 1 mana plays, this enchants an artifact or a creature. You pick.
Because why not?
You could be both. As long as the enchanted permanent, though, is a creature, it gets -1/-1, and cannot block. Also, the enchanted permanent has, at the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life. So I assume you put it on the opponent's permanent.
It's probably where you would put it, but...
Yeah, just in case.
If you want a modified creature, you could put it on your own thing. You
could, absolutely. I like this card in unconventional but legal.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to follow all the possible lines.
It's a bold strategy. So this card is very good in black-based aggro style decks. I like it for my zombie deck because it's another removal spell. I'm playing with a couple copies of it, and I took out a dead weight, I think, and I made some flex slots in the zombie deck. So this just being able to shut off a blocker is such a big deal. A lot of times I get stonewalled in the zombie deck by generally 1 creature I can't trade with. And it's just like, oh, if this thing were just out of my way. And a lot of times dead weight's good enough to make it small enough to tangle. Yeah. But the fact that this straight up can't block, it's like, if you want this creature to do anything, you got to start racing me. You're not going to win that race, by the way, is really good.
Yeah, because it also helps with the race by sapping their life for every turn.
Exactly. It's just very effective at what it does. And again, it's 1 mana. Like, it's perfect for the format. Like, it's doing so much for a single mana. Pauper, they call Pauper Legacy Light, right? Because it's light on your wallet. But it takes a lot of cues from Legacy, and Arena Pauper is no different in that the cheap mana spells are king. They really are the best things you can be doing. The most you can get out of your mana generally will get you wins. And this card's doing a ton of heavy lifting for a single black. So I think it's very, very good. So we started off this video, once we got into the card evaluations, talking about the hexproof deck. And this next card is a good tool if you need to beat the hexproof decks. And it is a strict upgrade to a card that already exists. This is Debt to the Kami. It's 2 and a black for an instant. You get to pick one of these 2 things. Target opponent exiles a creature they control, or target opponent exiles an enchantment they control. Your choice. This is a strict upgrade to Farika's Libation, which had them just sacrifice one of those 2 things. This exiles. Libation does not allow you to target yourself. It has to be a target opponent. So you can't be like, oh, well, Libation's a little bit more flex. It's not. This is strictly better. At this point, Libation, it's just not worth playing. You play this in its place. It's the same mana cost, exact same mana cost. They're both instants. They both deal with either a creature or an enchantment. And the reason you want this against the hexproof decks is because if they only have out 1 hexproof creature, you can make them sacrifice a creature, not a target creature. You target the opponent, then they have to sacrifice the creature. So
absolutely.
This is very good against the enchantments, against the hexproof style decks. If they only have 1 enchantment out because they're trying to go off early, maybe they're desperate, they're just playing like an Ancestral Mask, you can make them sack the enchantment. There's a lot of flexibility in Debt to the Kami, and black generally doesn't have a good way to interact with enchantments and artifacts. But now that we've gotten Feed the Swarm and now this follow-up, it's got a little bit more game against enchantments. Its artifact game's still weak, but it should be weak against something.
It should be.
Speaking of black artifacts, next card is one of those. It is Virus Beetle. So this card is an absolute powerhouse in Limited. It is a 1/1 for 2. It's an artifact creature insect. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. This card is very cheap. It's got a really cool ability. There are other cards that do this in the format. It's worth noting that this is an artifact, so this may not see a ton of play, but there's definitely more and more of the, like, hey, I can like kind of make little dirtily creatures, burglar rats and virus beetles and black cats. And all of a sudden it's like these cards are actually like doing work to keep your opponent so low on resources and still committing to the battlefield. That's the problem, right? A solid like discard deck is never really that good because you're not adding to the board. You're just dealing with, okay, your opponent's had a cards in hand, but you didn't deal with the 2 creatures they played, and now they killed you with them.
Yep.
Virus Beetle lets you add to the board and still be able to attack the opponent's resources in hand, which can make it pretty good. If worst case, you cast a 1/1 for 2, you could be doing worse.
Honestly, yeah.
So it's not a bad card. It's not like amazing, but the artifact piece also obviously has benefit going forward for artifact synergies. So it's worth noting that this is an artifact as well. So not like the best card in the world, but certainly a good role player, depending on what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's definitely got like a mirror, like distorted mirror version of Spirited Companion, where it's an artifact creature and it makes them discard. So it's kind of fun seeing them both in the same set.
Absolutely. Really great design work in this set. Speaking of 1 mana, what could you possibly want for 1 mana? Boy, oh boy, have I got a deal for you.
Oh my god.
This is an enchantment. It's a saga. It's called Okiba Reckoner Raid. It's a single black mana. On the first 2, what are these?
Chapters.
Chapters, thank you. The first 2 chapters, you have the opponent lose a life, you gain a life. Then you exile it and return it as a 2/2 creature with menace.
And vehicles you control have menace.
Yeah, it's really,
just for
really, it's really cool. It's got cool art. It does so much. This card does so much for 1 mana. What if I told you that there was a 2/2, it's got menace, and it gains you 2 life and makes your opponent lose 2 life? You'd be like, that's not a real Magic card. Like, that's too good. Like, what is this, a mythic rare? Like, that's very good. It's like, no, it's a common. Just the drawback is it's going to take till 4th turn for the creature to be able to attack.
Yeah, it's still worth it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds great. No problem whatsoever. This card's really good if you're playing like a mono black gain and drain style deck. It works really well with like a Marauding Blight Priest. It's so little mana, it lets you second spell very quickly. It's very good because it's got menace, and it can be a 2/2 that can help get through the last few points of damage you need in a deck like that. It's good with ninjas. It itself, I believe, on the backside is a rogue, and that's relevant for ninjas because they all target ninjas or rogues in this set. It's just really a flexible role player, and like while this card may not light the world on fire, it is 1 mana. It costs 1 mana.
Yeah.
Just 1 mana. Like you can never do better than like your opponent when they deal with the 2/2 has always done worse in terms of mana than you have. So it's just you're always up on mana with this card, and likely like a decent amount up on mana. Like they're probably going to use a 2 or 3 mana removal spell to deal with your 1 mana creature that's already gained you 2 life and lost them 2 life.
Yep.
Crazy good. Crazy good.
Yeah. I just want to bring up one thing because I saw this interaction at another time. The 3 mana removal spell that I would prefer to use on this would be Mirror Shell Crab. If you're able to counter the 3rd ability, the 3rd lore counter gets added to it, and then the ability would trigger. It triggers, but then gets countered. But then, as the saga resolves, once the last chapter counter is put on it, it is then put into the graveyard. So, if the ability of exiling it and returning it transformed doesn't happen, it just goes into the graveyard.
Huh.
It doesn't sit there or anything. It just goes away.
That's interesting. And the fact it goes to that zone from exile is really interesting.
Yeah, and so it doesn't exile if you counter that ability.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's all part of it. Wow.
Yeah, so I saw that interaction at the Loading Ready Run pre-release, and I was like, that is incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Yeah, just wanted to bring the crab back to be able to take out your opponent's sagas if they can't pay the 3.
He'll come get you. Here's a card. This is a red card. This is a hell of a Magic card.
So excited for this one.
Yeah, this card has kind of made pretty big waves in Paper Pauper as well. And this card is Experimental Synthesizer. It costs a single red. It's an artifact. When it enters or leaves the battlefield, you get to exile the top card of your library. Until the end of the turn, you may play that card. So if it's a land, you can put it onto the battlefield. 2 and a red, you may sacrifice the Synthesizer. Again, triggering it if need be. You get a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance. You can only activate this at sorcery speed.
And that's okay.
This card does so much. I'm so happy with the space that red has with this, like, exiling cards and getting to play them.
Yeah, like, red card draw has always been an issue. And, you know, but when they added a rummage, that was okay.
It helped.
But discarding first and then drawing probably a worse card always hurt.
Yep.
But this, it's a different way you have to play the card draw. You have to play this before you do anything else, because if you play a land and then exile a land, it just goes away.
You're losing value.
So, you got to make sure when you're playing this style of red card draw, keep all of your options open and do this kind of thing first.
Absolutely. It's very good. It's very flexible. It does a whole lot. Again, for single mana, like, look how much... so many of the cards we're introducing in this are single mana cards, and they're generating so much value. It's, as a long-time Magic player, it's staggering to see what they're allowing 1 mana commons to get away with.
We've gone through quite a few of them so far today.
Yeah, it's wild. And just being able to, like Jared said, to do the first thing, like, oh, okay, on the third turn I'll play it before I play my land, see what I get. In Pauper, 3's probably going to be the top of your curve in most decks anyway. And so it's like, or I hit a land, and cool, I make a land, and I have one in my hand, so I know I'm making my land drop on the following turn as well. So I can start to plan out my turns. It's just thinking, what the strategy is, thinking your turn through. And I think cards that promote good play are always really healthy for Magic, and these red cards tend to do that. They make you think about the scope of your entire turn, not just, let me just see what I can rip off the top, which is card draw, right? Draw card. I don't really get punished for that, because they sit in my hand and I can use them whenever I want. These don't have that. Red's more impulsive color than blue, so you have to use them right away, or in fact, you do lose them.
That's very true here.
So, yeah, Synthesizer, all kinds of good. Flexible card, I think we're going to start to see, and I've been pushing this deck on and off for a while. It's like a red-black Rakdos-style control deck. This card really helps a lot. It works great with a Deadly Dispute, sacrificing it to then exile the top card, draw 2 cards, and make a treasure token is extraordinarily busted.
Yeah.
And just this on its own, in a pinch, is 4 mana, look at 2 cards, and make a 2/2.
Yeah, that can be enough sometimes.
Yep, and it can absolutely get you over a bump. It's much better than drawing a land in the late game. It means that the red decks can play a little less land than they've been playing, which is a boon for the red decks, because in Pauper it's like, unless you're a control deck, you probably don't want to go over 20 lands anyway. So this being able to help make sure you can, if you play a little bit more land, you're not punished, because you can, like, kind of deal with, getting extra value out of your lands that way.
Yeah.
Or you can run a little bit greedier and kind of get away with it. So it's pretty nice to have the Synthesizer for that. The next card also costs one mana. Single mana card. Just how it's going to roll.
It keeps happening.
It really does. Like, there's another 1 mana card coming after that one. Like, it's just, the hits don't stop.
They can't keep getting away with this.
Yeah, it's crazy how much costs 1 mana in this set, and is very playable. This card's Simian Sling. It is an equipment monkey. It costs a red for a 1/1.
Everything about this makes me so happy.
It's pretty great. The artwork's pretty great. Just everything about it is very cool. It's an equipment as well, so it gets the equipped creature +1/+1. Whenever Simian Sling or the equipped creature becomes blocked, it deals 1 damage to the defending player, and it has Reconfigure. It is... Reconfigures, you can either, if it comes down as a creature, so it comes down, you cast a 1/1 for 1. If you need to, you can pay 2 colorless, and then you can equip it, like you would any equipment, to another creature, and then it ceases being a creature and gives the equipped creature +1/+1 and the blocking text. If that creature that it's equipped to dies, you got another 1/1 again. So it's just kind of the best of both worlds. It's dealing damage when it's blocked. Man, this card's ridiculous for 1 mana.
Yeah, it's like all the bestow creatures from the original Theros block, but instead of falling off and then that's it can jump onto something else.
It's crazy flexible.
I love it so much.
It's very good.
And of all of the equipment creatures, this one was the first one that made me think of sound waves via audio cassettes, like Laserbeak. It's like it's a little tiny transformer that turns into something useful and then turns into an actual robot again.
Yep. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really flexible. It does a whole lot of really useful things depending on the build. You can build this into an equipment deck. You can just have it to bump up a creature if you need to in a more aggressive deck. You can attack with it, force blocks, and then again have the creature back again as a blocker if it's like a close board battle that you're going over. It's really flexible and has impressed me a good deal. It's so cheap. Plays really well with the synthesizer because you can cast it so easily. Mm-hmm. Again, it's an artifact, so there is that synergy as well. If your deck cares about that card type, it really does matter. So it is a very, very good rate for this card. And that doesn't change because it costs 1 mana, so does this next card. It's a green card. It is Commune with Spirits. It is a single green sorcery. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an enchantment or a land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Yeah, so we've gone through many communes in our time. Commune with nature. Commune with dinosaurs.
Commune with the gods.
Commune with the gods. And they're just going to keep happening, I guess. But this one is pretty great. And we didn't discuss this beforehand, but I'm pretty sure this one would definitely go into Ancestral Mask.
Yep.
I don't know if it would go into much else, but...
Probably not.
Getting an enchantment or land seems pretty good.
It's so good and we were talking about why, and I said the white decks become the best mask deck. This is really the card that's done it. This in tandem with the Spirited Companion. This card can find Spirited Companion.
Yes.
So it's like this card... In that deck, this card can get a creature, it can get an enchantment, or it can get a land. What do you need? The deck has 3 things in it. Creatures, enchantments, and lands.
Yep.
Crazy.
It's
so good. Heliod's Pilgrim already was kind of good, but a little pricey, but you can run 2 copies of those and find whatever particular... It lets you also run the white silver bullet enchantment you need. Oh, do you need lifelink? Go get the lifelink thing that hooks onto your guy so you're sure you don't lose. Do you need the trample thing? Okay, go get the trample thing so you can kill them right now. It's really good.
Absolutely.
It's really cheap, and it lets you look at a hell of a lot of cards.
Yeah, looking at the top 4 is pretty good in common Pauper.
It's really powerful. This card really kind of kicked this plus the companion. I was just like, wow, the flexibility these 2 cards offer this deck in tandem, it's just... There's no way the blue version's better, and in my testing, that's been the case. The white version's definitely superior.
Hard to say it is, yeah. It would hard to argue it.
Yep. As much as I love Omen of the Sea, it's just not doing as much work as the Companion plus Commune.
It's wild.
Yeah, very good stuff out of Commune with Spirits. So the last card we're going to talk about costs twice as much.
So expensive.
So what are we doing here? What is that one? What even is that? I don't even know what that means. So, this is Master's Rebuke. It is an instant. It costs a generic and a green, and it is an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker. Not that matters in Pauper.
Not so much.
You don't control. So, this is Rabid Bite, but it's an instant. So, it's another version of, it's a slightly worse Ram Through, but it's a slightly better Rabid Bite. So, this just helps add to the instant speed bully effects that Green's been getting.
Yep. Yeah, if you're looking to just build mono green beats, this is going to be your removal package.
Yes, absolutely. This and Ram Through are definitely it. It's like, okay, I got a big trampler. Cool, this Ram Through can kill you. This is probably my Ram Throughs 5 through 8, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if you're classy, you can play it with Death Touch creatures.
You.
It's not good enough. It's not good enough.
It's so close, though. It's so close to being good enough, but...
I know it's just not quite there, but it is a cool idea, and that's the cool thing about Arena Pauper is there's so many flexible options, and there's a bunch of cards we hadn't really talked about that are like were on my list. I negated and I talked about the hits of like the closest ones. Artifacts really didn't get anything. Colorless artifacts, obviously we talked about artifacts in color, and the lands we really didn't get much. Uncharted Haven and a reprint of the Gain of Life lands that they're fine, but
yeah. I mean,
they have cool art.
You'll run them if you're a 2-color deck.
Yep,
that's
exactly.
And if you're 3 to 4 color deck, you might run the Uncharted Haven.
Just it's possible.
Specify it comes to play tapped and taps for any color you choose, but only that color.
Yep, you got to pick it one of ETBs.
You pick one color, and then that's what that does.
Yep. So like, fine, but we've seen it before. It's been it was already a snowland like that. It's fine. It's not bad. There's nothing wrong with playing it if you need it.
Yeah, the fact that it's not snow in a format that can reward snow with, different cards like Line.
Frostbite.
You're not going to run Uncharted Haven.
Right.
Over the other one.
It'll work. If you're in a pinch and you don't have the wild cards to use it to get a thriving land, this works.
Yeah.
It's half a thriving land. It's fine. It's not optimal, but it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And common wild cards, it's kind of funny. Like, sometimes you just run down a rabbit hole of, like, I have a bunch of common wild cards, and you spew off building a bunch of decks, don't like them, want to build the next deck, and you're like, oh, crap, I ran out of common wild cards. So it can be a bit annoying. Yeah. It can be. Even, I play a lot of limited, so I get most of the commons and stuff. I still run out of common wild cards.
Yeah. The fact that you run out of common wild cards is wild? No.
Wild.
Bad. Bad me.
Well, that'll do it. Bad Jared. But we will be back again if you have time on the 26th of March, 2022, to come over and check out our charity event. We'd really appreciate it, even if you just throw it on and kind of lurk. We'd appreciate it greatly. If you don't get a chance to, I'm sure we'll probably post it over here on YouTube so you can check it out anyway. Hopefully. We'll see. We may not. You don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
We probably will.
We probably will know. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. If you're interested in Arena Pauper, we have a Discord. We're going to accommodate more of that in there because we want to get more people playing Pauper because it's great. And we want to grow that community because it's so accessible with Arena. It's an interesting card pool. We had a huge discussion the other night about Storm in Arena Pauper because one of our participants in the charity event was like, Storm's in this. And it's like, yeah, Storm is in this, but can you make a deck that storms?
Yeah.
Like, is it just a combo deck that Storm finishes? It's interesting. I'd be happy to see it, but happy or sad, I don't know. We'll see. It depends on how good it is, I guess. But
yeah, it could be really good, and I could lose.
Yeah, you never know. The only thing that's banned is persistent petitioners. So
yeah,
it's exciting times to be playing the format, and we always say that it's kind of a brewer's paradise. It really is. Build something cool, and if you want to test it, definitely check out our Discord. We are happy to run some games and play some tests so you can play against. You don't have to play like the bot or just like random people in the play category who are testing random decks or new to the game.
Yep.
Stuff like that. So you can actually try to play against Pauper and see what the meta has. That's what we'll be doing in our Discord, hopefully more regularly going forward. And definitely check that out. And if you want to check out more Arena stuff, we're on Twitch every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, bringing you usually limited, sometimes Pauper, and sometimes something random. Jared gets in there and just starts crafting mines.
Sometimes. Not on Sundays.
Storybook Brawl. Sometimes Paul will be like, I'm going to go Storybook Brawling.
Yeah, that's been fun.
So, we do a lot of stuff. Let us know in the comments, of course, if there's something you want us to do. We'll do it. We'll do it.
We'll try.
We'll do it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I think I'm going to end the video here.
Goodbye.
Bye.